Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid. I am joined again by Ravzia.
Hello.
And let's not make a secret of it. The reason Ravzia is here and we're recording this other one, we're both going to go do dinner and various things, sign off for the night. But we peeked at the next turn. And finally, Caelum has rolled. So it's time for some action.
Yes, it is.
Let's see what happens. We have a battle in Caelum. Now, the situation last turn was that Lemuria put an army of about 200 ghosts, which appears what this is, between the major Caelum army and the Caelum capital. So Caelum only has a motley crew here to defend. If we look at commanders, which is often one of the most important things when fighting Lemuria, we see a handful of Harab Seraphs. This guy's got some air gems to potentially do something fancy here. I hope it's not summon air elementals, because air elementals kind of suck against Lemuria.
Yeah, honestly, Wrathful Skies would be the strongest thing he could cast.
Yeah,
That looks like a Soul Slay spam.
right. Sadly, against an army, it's not going to target the things you want to soul slay. It's only going to target... On Lemuria's side, it'll probably target ghosts. No gems. This is who I would think would be casting anti-magic. This guy, it looks like we have enough for Rigor Mortis.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of these guys. This guy with the Doomglaive, this guy with the Bottle of Water. This guy's cursed, but has unequaled obesity.
I think it's just Rigor and Skelly spam.
I don't think there's any way Caelum can take this. Like, they couldn't kill all the consuls barely before Rigor Mortis put everything to sleep with what they've got here.
Mm-hmm. The Soul Slayer is probably going to be in a two-person community.
Yeah.
I have two people to absorb the fatigue for them so they don't go to sleep right away.
Right.
They would have to clear all the ghosts immediately if they have any.
Right. I like the fiery imps. I think those are a kind of good call. I mean, these guys should... It's actually something worth considering if you're a Blood Nation. And you can do Bloodlust on them, because I think these will get pretty close to one-tapping ghosts. Only 3 ammo, though.
Yeah, that sounds pretty. I think a Fire Nation would want to just do fire.
Yeah. They're kind of wasting most of their shots here on stuff. They didn't know. They weren't actually that effective. They looked cool. Thunderstrike's coming out.
Caelum's strong cast it Storm, and then probably went.
Okay, I think you're right. That's what the air gems were for, was Storm.
Yeah, and Thunderstrike is not very good into Rigor Mortis.
Yeah.
Because
you get knocked out after a couple casts.
And Caelum doesn't have a front line, really.
The problem here is, like, if you look at the Caelum plan, this was kind of a desperate last effort, right? But, like...
Why was it a desperate last effort? They have flyers, right?
Yeah, right. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, the plan is kind of... Like, you can't even really articulate the plan. Are the troops going to kill everything? Doesn't have enough troops to kill everything. Are the mages going to kill everything? We know he has Rigor Mortis. Right? Like, what is the stuff that's going to do the killing here? It's not a very... You know?
Yeah, I would have found Wrathful Skies acceptable as a way of clearing everything. Because that'll hit...
Yeah.
Lemuria's commanders as well.
I mean, that would be high attrition, but, you know, it could be worth it.
Yeah, as opposed to bringing the whole, trying to split that big stack.
Right. He has routed a lot of the ghosts, but that is usually not sufficient to win a battle against Lemuria because the Immortals are not going to rout. So if you don't want them going on top of your capital...
And Lemuria's going to take this one and probably get a lot of mage kills.
Yeah, I think that was probably like 4 or 5... Oh my god, wait, how many? Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of mages.
8 mages.
8 mages.
including a
priest.
cap only and a couple crystal sorcerers.
Yeah. Okay.
And 91 ghost deck.
Yeah, for a very moderate. Oh my god.
And here is an army that would have absolutely curb stomped that
Yeah.
Lemurian army if
Yeah.
only it was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it's that this army would have done like the wilderness leave no trace thing, except it wouldn't have left
That
any trace of
is
ghosts.
that is a lot of gelatinous cubes.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but do those care about rigor mortis?
They
I suppose they
are.
would.
They do. Yeah.
They have 0 encumbrance though.
They're mindless, but they're not inanimate.
Right. Does trampling fatigue you?
Yeah. But not if you have 0 encumbrance.
Okay. And maybe the most important question: are any of those birds getting a good meal?
Oh.
He has supply.
Well,
All this time we've thought he would just be.
I mean, this is certainly worthy of an... Okay, here's one supply item. Maybe he put them on the commanders, like the leaders, these guys. No. Oh, there's 2. 3. 4. This
Why
isn't enough to
on
do Serpent's Blessing, is it? Don't you have to be 3, or can you be 2?
Poison Ward, maybe?
Oh.
That's all I can think.
You have to be 3 to cast Serpent's... It's what is Serpent's Blessing? Is it Nature 4,
I think you need
1
to be,
gem? It's Nature 4,
nature
1...
It's definitely Nature 4, so you need to be 3 to cast.
Right. And then it's 1 gem to cast, though, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you that 2 isn't enough,
Right.
even though it is.
Oop, there's another one, so up to 5. Okay, anyway, we've been through most of it.
250 supply, it's a lot.
Yeah. At a minimum. I didn't go through them all super religiously. So, yeah. And these guys, even though it's 500 units... Or they have the supply of a size 2 unit, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and some of these guys don't eat. Like the gelatinous cubes don't eat. The corpse constructs don't eat. Do commanders eat? They can't get these. They can't get starved. But I don't know if they eat.
They all eat,
Okay.
but they don't starve.
That's kind of what I thought.
And there's some rating. And here is...
Oh my god.
the Ghost Death Star.
So this was moving on to the fort that Caelum moved his army out of. So Caelum could have actually taken a big fight here.
Lemuria was trying to take it.
Yeah.
I thought this is going to clinch it for us.
He had a score to settle. He was going to do...
Those look like whaling casters.
Well, they don't have gems, though.
They don't. He might not have it yet.
I don't think he does.
We haven't seen it, have we?
No,
is that
no.
Rigor and...
This is Rigor and Fell Vapors. So a lot is riding on this god.
It's surprising you would do both of them. And it's holding up the enchantment.
Yeah.
Luckily, she's immortal, so I don't think she'll drop it when she dies. Right?
This is what you want Lemuria to do, is pack all his stuff together so you can kill it.
Right. If Caelum had fought that and killed it, they would be in a brilliant position.
I can understand being Caelum and waiting for Serpent's Blessing, right? But I think if they have Serpent's Blessing and they have Relief, if they have both of those, yeah.
Well, they'll need a Communion to do Relief.
For Caelum?
Or Serpent's Blessing. Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
They're both going to be too high level otherwise. Relief is Nature 5, I believe.
Is that right? I know it's high. I didn't know it was Nature 5. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, so that's hard to cast if you're not a
dedicated
nature. It's
all of a sudden looking really
hard
bad.
to look. Yeah, hard to look at that and not see it as a step backwards. Literally.
Step backwards. It's hard to look at it and not see it as a disaster. Because now you've got a hard decision. Do you take
See, a
this army?
disaster to me, Lucid, is that army isn't on the map, and then that's a disaster for Caelum. But at least
No,
they still
that's
have
not a
it.
disaster. That's sweet release. That's you get to go join another game. A disaster is this. A disaster, they've been forked, right? So chess term, right? They can choose to send this army back and contest this fort, potentially a grievous cost to their self, or they can ride out and defend their capital.
Do they need to defend at this turn?
No, but feels pretty bad leaving your cap under siege. It's not like Caelum's rolling
The
in forts,
Well, we can only see half of it.
right?
They did take a bunch off the top, right?
Yeah, but I
Okay,
mean,
they took
still,
one. I take that, or two. I take that.
I mean, this is great.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
I
not a
mean,
great
if I
position.
were Caleb, I would be screenshotting that doom stack on that fort with no context and just sharing it around.
To make people scared.
Yeah, be like, this is what happens when you don't, gang up on Lemuria.
I mean, I think this army. The thing is, we're getting to the phase in the game. Like, there's different times, right, for fighting Lemuria, and there's a period where you don't have to worry about rigor mortis and stuff like foul vapors, right? But then there's a point where you do. Once that stuff's out, you do need relief in Serpent's Blessing, kind of. But if they have, like, once you have that, you still can kind of put, like, fuck you armies together that are going to kill this. Like, how many Thunder Strikes does it really take to kill this whole army?
A lot.
I mean, kind of. Right? Like,
If you get lucky and hit the commanders, not very.
no, like, let's say you do 50 Thunder Strikes. 50 Thunder Strikes is probably going to rout this army.
No, that's 150.
Huh?
It's going to kill 150 go.
Well, but you
With
also have
all your
the
troops are
splash
still.
around is going to kill other stuff too. I mean, because yeah, you're deleting a tile, but you're also doing one armor negating. Is it one? I think it's one armor negating shock damage to all
Maybe
these.
two. I think it's two.
Yeah, two. So that's going to kill some of them, but you're also going to get pretty close to contributing to an HP route with that, because it's basically 9 times the number of ghosts you're damaging, or 8 times.
But can he do 50 thunder strikes?
Yeah. And that's a good question.
That is one thing. He might not have been able to support an attack into that from one of his forts there, but if he has any mages in the fort north of that army,
All right, so let's look at it this way. He has 15 Caelum Seraphs, right? Each of these can do
with
Thunderstrike
Storm,
with Storm, right? So they're going to be AR3.
that's the pretender, I think.
Oh, right. I was like,
Yeah,
why
that's
isn't
the
Arch? Let's see what the Pretender has. I can't remember what the paths are.
that might be a relief caster. If it's got the right paths.
No.
No, it said
AR4, Death 5.
that could be Wailing Winds and
Yeah.
something else.
I mean, Wailing Wind's also very clutch.
I'm looking at Death 5 with 3 Death Gems on it. I can't imagine what else you'd be casting.
He's got a
Unless he
bunch of.
went
It looks like
way
he
up
might be
Thom.
thinking Cleansing Water instead of Thunderstrike, which also is an excellent spell.
Right.
Um,
It's got no way to get the nature high enough, though, unless he has a. That's where all the supply items.
a lot of these are Air 2.
Well, with Earth power and the
Yeah.
um, girdles, they should be fatigue neutral on the Elder,
Yeah.
even
There's a
in
lot of
Redound.
Air 2s here for these Harab Seraphs. I think he can get Thunderstrike's 50 fatigue, right? And it's
You
Air
would
3 to
it
cast.
twice.
So, one thing you can do is you can put 2 gems on them, and the first 2 will only be 25 fatigue each. And then you can
Yeah,
get
you're
3
probably
off.
going to want to take off conservative gem usage just in case.
Yeah. Um, But honestly, I think when you look at it, I think about 10 of these Harib Seraphs. I think he's got 25 Thunderstrike casters.
That's also almost 100 water gems in gelatinous cubes there.
Yeah. I mean, these gelatinous cubes, they have pretty
They
good MR
eat on
too.
trample, right? That works against ethereal. And they have the acid
Well,
splash.
yes and no, right? Like, Ethereal is going to negate damage. It will consume on trample if they take any damage. And normally when you do a defense dodge, you take 1 damage. So
Right.
I
But
believe
with
against
ethereal,
Ethereal, it's going to give you a quarter chance to avoid being eaten.
my only concern is that without buffs, they might die a little fast.
Yeah.
But they do have the acid shield, which should help a bit against ghosts, even if they
But
have
these are
length
great
3 buff.
against consoles and stuff too, right? I think like if he's got
Yeah,
you have
those will
to
eat up comp.
you have to run an enchantment with this army to get Serpent's Blessing if that's something you were trying to do, right? Whether they did it or not, I'm not sure. But if they have mass flight, all of a sudden these become really good. Especially if you have them on like hold and attack, and you can basically fatigue out your mage core before they land with Thunderstrike.
Right.
Because you have 25 guys who are going to do summon Storm Power, Thunderstrike,
Yeah. Those are
Thunderstrike.
also shock immune, so they can't get stunned by Thunderstrike.
Oh, that's really
And they have
nice.
50
Oh wait,
HP.
they are shock immune. Oh, stun
Stun
immunity.
immune.
Okay, not shock though.
They don't have shock resistance,
Right.
but they can't be stunned. So with 50 HP, the splash from the AoE on Thunderstrike's not gonna
Yeah.
wreck them.
The only thing that's kind of bad is you're going to have Storm up, so you can't really fly these guys easily.
Yeah, it's 2 combat speed is not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can. I think this army, properly scripted, could just delete this with very few casualties.
Yeah,
But it could also
agree.
lose horrendously.
I think that's actually the case with a lot of Caelum armies,
Yeah.
where they accidentally get the positioning off a little and they don't have
Right.
everything hit at the same time.
Right.
But when it goes off perfectly, it's like a devastating strike that the enemy can't recover from, and you just wipe them.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that would be kind of interesting. Yeah, never mind. That would be super try hard. There's a new casting. And I was thinking you could like have a guy with Storm Staff, so that storms up
we
immediately.
haven't even talked about gem baiting yet, Lucid. I mean, look at it, it's begging for it from both.
Yeah, that's true. But I was thinking you could have it like where Storm Staff's up, or you have Storm up for the beginning of combat, but then your guy with Storm Staff retreats while you have Mass Flight up, and that way you can time when the cubes fly based on when you retreat that guy, and then you have somebody else that comes in at like the 5th slot and puts Storm back up again. And that way your mages are still air 3.
That would be a lot of testing though to make sure the timing goes off.
Yeah. But that would be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, because on like turn 4 the cubes would fly, and on 5 you would put Storm up.
I think the only problem with this, I would be inclined to have everything here on Guard Commander and just evocate the army down except for the cubes. That's probably how I would run this into Lemuria.
My worry would be that the army would not route, and then you'd have too much fall asleep, and then you would be on Guard Commander. Whereas if you have them flying after a couple turns, you have decent odds of.
But yeah, that would be if you have relief. But if you have relief and you have these guys on advance and cast, and all these guys on Guard Commander.
Yeah, it shouldn't. With the right tools, that's a very hard army for Lemuria to fight.
Yeah. But it's going to be so interesting, because it's like, like we were saying, it's just, it could go one way or the other really hard.
Yeah, we're hyping up this big fight, but they have to pick the fight.
Yeah, and let me tell you the other way it goes. This is the other way it goes. Imagine, first of all, this Lemurian army isn't spaced properly. You want more spots for the birds to fall in, because the fever dream for Caelum, right, is you don't even do hold and attack. You have your flyers on attack. So before you've even killed the first 200 or 300 ghosts with Thunderstrike, you have all of your troops landing. And they land in like a Swiss cheese formation of Lemurian ghosts, and they all get paralyzed and then killed in like 4 or 5 turns. And that could totally happen, right? Like, you really want to thin this army out with the thunder strikes before you have your shit hit.
Yeah. All your cubes are slowly inching across the field,
Right,
and all the mages are out before they get there,
right,
and then they all melt because they're magic beings.
right. So the other thing that you can do, that this might be the better option actually than what I was describing with guard commander, is because you really don't want to hit the Swiss cheese formation. You can just do a big fucking long line, like a double line or a
Just
triple
walk it.
line, and they won't fly if you do that. And so you can just have them, your flyers just march across the battlefield, and that'll keep your mages from getting flanked.
True.
Because you do
This is
not
this
that
is really high investment, but one thing you can do is if you want to have a bunch of flyers all go off at the same time, but you don't want it to be on turn 2 or
right.
immediately,
I know.
you can bodyguard
Yeah,
flying commanders.
yeah,
And if you get really try hard and you have limited flying commanders for whatever reason, you can give them rings of warning so that they can hold
yeah,
twice as many bodyguards.
yeah. Actually, probably a decent middle-aged Ulm trick since you can make those really quick or cheap. Um, Retreating commanders though kind of sucks though because they are pretty much
No,
always
the
going to have a
commanders
chance to
go in
die.
too.
Huh?
Now everything just goes in. They lead the troops into combat, fearlessly lose.
Oh, the commanders are on attack.
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking you
No.
can also do if you retreat the commander, it'll just let the other guys charge in. They won't be trying to follow the commander. They'll be just doing their own thing.
Now I've tried it with Tengu and Raijin, because the Tengu are so fragile.
Right.
Sadly, it's not as effective as I was hoping.
Yeah, I don't think it's things I've tried doing things like that before. I find it really hard to actually
With
make it work
a
well.
nation like Caelum might be able to do it because they can bring so many flying commanders that they might not care about super, might not value super high.
Yeah. Okay. So this is heating up. I'm super excited to see what happens. I feel like next turn, I feel like what happens, I think Caelum's going to knock them off their capital. I think Lemuria is going to get this fort back. And
Yeah,
then turn after, we'll have a big fight.
in that forest there.
Yeah. That's my guess. My shot in the dark. Ulm going on the offensive, though. Putting this throne under siege, there's a large Lemurian army here. Fortunately for Ulm, while Lemuria is engaged with Caelum, he doesn't really have to worry about foul vapors.
It'd be insanely risky to move that lich away now. So
The what?
it would be basically impossible for Caelum to move the lich
Oh,
away
yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all you got to worry about is the ghosts and rigor.
I don't know if this stack... Like, how is it going to kill... I guess he can do Iron Blizzard. It's like, how are you going to kill
If
300
he groups
ghosts?
them together, he might be able to, right?
Yeah.
Because he had a bunch more mages in the force to the south of it.
Yeah, oh, this 14 Black Priests.
14 Black Priests, yeah. That if all that's together, that could do it, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh, Lemuria's rolling out a Wraith Lord.
Yeah, I know. I bet you they got that from an event, though. Because they have Luck 3 and Magic 3. You can get that.
It seems kind of cheap. I don't get those kinds of events on the nations I play loose.
Yeah, but do you take Luck 3, Magic 3?
I take Magic 3.
You got to take the Luck 3. I think it's actually a Luck 3 event.
That's interesting.
I've had
happened?
it happen a couple times on Pop Kill Nations. I think the requirement for it, you have to be Luck. It's something like you have to be Luck 3, Magic 3, and you have to have a Death Mage in the province. So it's kind of it's a really good event, but it's a lot of stacking requirements.
Right. I'm wondering what happened with that Abyssia bump, maybe, with Ulm? No, it's just a scout. Okay.
Yeah. German scouts getting patrolled out.
Right, and they're stacking the border. Oh boy, here we go again.
Here we go. I think the play for Joman is you attack here. Because you need to combine armies, and you also need to get shit through this choke point.
And that way it's clear for the next round of
Yeah.
Ashigaru to waddle through. And then, of course, next turn, all of those non-manned Abyssian provinces will be just covered in Raijin.
Yeah. See, this is the interesting thing. Look how much armies Joman has over here. Like all this stuff and all this stuff. What if, and this is a big what if just these stacks, this and this and this, plus Ryujin, they could kill Abyssia. They would be set up to like have their next war right after that. You know, like you're like, oh, they've got a bunch of stuff. It's going to be slow to move. What if they don't need it?
It's the dream, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah. Well,
You
I've
got to
always been
chew
good at
through
running my mouth.
a lot of Abyssian forge there.
Yeah. That's true. Okay. A lot of potential Abyssian assassins too.
It's also true. They could be sitting in that Plains province. Abyssia doesn't even have to move it.
Right.
They just have to move their assassins.
We haven't heard any crying about assassins, so.
Although, to be fair, Joman could be doing the same thing. There could be 20 ninjas and 20 slayers in that province next turn, all looking for somebody to assassinate.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny mental image. It's just, everybody's cleared out. It's a ghost town. They expect the big army fight, and then it's just nothing but ninjas and slayers just peering around the buildings. There's nobody.
Yeah, it could be an assassin-only war. That would be unfortunate because we couldn't see it, but this is the life we live. Agartha just pumping the... Oh my god.
That's that old PD dump.
Just getting so much value out of it.
Hey, they saved that province. It's like however many turns of income they save off of that PD expenditure.
Yeah. All the unrest that could have been here too, they've been knocking down with that PD dump. Is there a gay cult here? No.
I think they would have been led by Dryad or Satyr or something.
Okay, I don't think there's too much else. I think that was it.
Satis, did they have any fun?
I'll go look, but I think that was the only other action. Satis, okay. You remember you were saying this province is free? There wasn't even any PD here? Okay, Falegra put some PD there, but Satis also took it.
Yeah. Falegra looks like they're stacking up to... Either they want to do what they did earlier, which is draw Satis into defending the capital so they can go for the other fort.
You say draw as if it requires motion.
Well, I mean, and then Satis had to go back after they beat a Flagrant army and go retake the fort again.
Yeah.
But they could try that again, or they could finally go for the capital.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. I think if Satis has... we know they have Banefire. The only real counter to Banefire is Will of Fates. And it's not an amazing counter. An anti-magic. So.
Yeah, I would say it's AP damage on Banefire, which in theory you could maybe tank it with like Fog Warriors plus Army of Gold plus Mass Regen or something.
42 hit points.
It wasn't AP.
Yeah, so Army of Gold on these guys.
With Fog Warriors and Army of Gold, those Cyclops could survive it. At least the initial burst.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could survive the initial burst anyway. They're 2-hit kills for Banefire.
It is AP damage. 55, I believe. So
I thought it was 45. Is it 55?
It's a lot, yeah.
That was 45. Oh, it is 55. Fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty dang hard.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
So they're on the edge, I think.
Yeah.
To the point where they really don't want to get hit by.
No, they really don't. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a weird situation. I don't think if Satis properly scripts his army and fully mobilizes his mage corps, I don't think Falegra is going to win with just troops. There are all sorts of things Falegra could do, like Mass Flight, get on top of the mages, summon a bunch of air elementals. Falegra can do that. Earthquake.
If he has the right spells,
Fog Warriors.
Earthquake, Firestorm, even.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things he could do that are going to win him the battle. But just marching troops.
Yeah, we don't see that I can tell any slave mages
Yeah.
or shackled mages that could be powering a communion. And he's turned 56. He should have it, that as an option for
Yeah.
taking the fight.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in context, like, if you are, like, a lot of times in late age, by turn 60, I'm looking at wrapping up research on, like, various scales nations. Like, I've got the 9s I need, and I'm doing, like, victory laps on the 9s
Yeah,
I
you
don't
should
need.
have at least a few 7s would be
Yeah,
keeping up enough to compete.
right. Okay.
And I think evocation is valuable for late age Phlegra too, right? And that'll give them the tools to put pressure on the Satis mages from the other side of the field.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you know, Banefire has a lot of damage, but if you don't have a lot of protection, Blade Wind's gonna fuck a lot more mages up per cast than
The
Banefire.
Sauromancers, how is their defense for Earthquake? Not so.
Well, they're old, so I imagine it's very bad.
Yeah, and Satis does not have the
Yeah.
tools needed to really protect them super early in the fight from just getting wiped
No,
immediately.
they really don't.
So when you bring your, and this is something I don't know if the Phlegra player has thought through all the way, but when you bring your auto communion, you can script mass flight and earthquake turn one,
Yeah,
and they will go off immediately.
right.
Not as fast as an eight or anything, obviously, but it's very hard if people are not expecting it to
Yeah.
plan for that combination.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. I don't think I put it up on the channel. There's like a blitz we did. I played Late Age Phlegra, Agrippa with Satis. But there was like, I was fighting middle-aged or late-age man, and they had some huge doom stack they were rolling out, and that was what I did. And I wiped they had like 50 mages or something that were getting ready to thunderstrike the shit out of
cleanest
me.
wipe I've ever seen was a Phlegra with mass flight and earthquake, and they just wiped like 50 mystics from Arco
Yeah,
because the mystics all went into communion and they all died immediately.
yeah. Yeah, that was basically what I did to man. It's a super, super powerful combo.
If the
So
enemy doesn't see it coming and they're not planning on being earthquaked right away, and they have old mages, like there are so many old fragile mages in late age.
yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of don't even really like advertising it because it's so strong. Like, I hate that. And I like Scales Nations, and I feel like Scales Nations are usually more vulnerable to that kind of bullshit, you know? So,
No,
but it's a really good
it
combo.
is some value in forcing people to always be worried about it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be worried about it happening. That's what I'm saying. But yeah.
Oh, better get some better scouting on your flaggers in your games.
No, I do tend to treat Flagger with some respect.
I had a scouting report and I see like 8 Phlegrin Helots die and like an entire Arco army just disappear, and I'm like, well,
Do
better
I?
watch out for that one.
Yeah, I even need to watch that battle. I think I know what happened. Um, Flagger's, yeah, really versatile. I mean, they can also do pretty massive air elemental spam. Very good against this kind of bullshit as well.
Kind of a closing thought on the position.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about how it's been kind of stalematy. Satis really only has to screw up once, and then it's not going to be a stalemate anymore.
Yeah,
Whereas if Phlegrin messes up, they have some land they can fall back to, and they
yeah.
will be
That's a
okay.
great way to look at the game. It's like, how many times do you have to? How many times do you need to screw up to lose? And how many times do you need other players to screw up for you to win? That's kind of how I look at it a lot. I don't really like nation. That's one of the things you don't tend to see me playing a ton of like really cap heavy, like cap sacred heavy nations where like you're planning on keeping your cap only sacred stacks alive for forever, and
You're
just
playing
scaling
on the
power that
9
way.
head. All it takes is one cheeky Cloud Vapors or Wind of Death that you weren't
Right,
looking for, and suddenly everything is out the window.
right. And it's like that's going to happen to any nation, even if you don't have cap only sacreds. But other nations you can have plans potentially that are better prepared for making lots of mistakes. Like I tend to like to be able to make a good number of mistakes and still be able to defend
Yeah,
myself reasonably well. But if I make
that's
one
an
big
ideal.
mistake, usually that means I'm not going to win an offensive war a lot of times. So like sometimes if you just make me make one big mistake on the offense, I'm like ready to go back on defense. But I like to have it such that I'd have to still make a lot more defensive mistakes for me to lose the game, like be kicked out.
Hmm. Yep, and sadly that is not the case for Satis.
Yeah. Yeah. The Satis road to victory is long and arduous.
And covered in the blood of Cyclops, it would appear.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Rabzia. Hopefully, next time we get together, we get to see the much anticipated Caelum Lemuria fight.
Yes, that is my greatest hope in this situation.
All right. Until then, take care, everyone. Cheers.